Hello all, and thank you so much for joining us at Vermont State Parks for today's live job fair, virtual job fair, I should say. We're so excited that you're here, and thank you for your interest. My name is Ryan Baker-Dunn. I'm the Marine Operations Supervisor at Vermont State Parks, and I'll be moderating today's job fair. We have a live question and answer going, so if you have any questions, please put them in there. I'll try and answer them the best I can, if I can, via the chat function. If not, we'll save time for general questions at the end that we can answer live for you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Agnes Barcelo, one of our regional operations managers.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Agnes Barcelo. I'm the Northwest Regional Operations Manager with Vermont State Parks. And full disclosure, I am not very tech savvy, but if I were sitting in front of a John Deere right now, I could probably take the deck off with my eyes closed. So if there are any technical glitches throughout this process, I just ask that you bear with me, but hopefully everything goes smoothly. So again, thanks for joining us. I'm super psyched that you're interested in working with Vermont State Parks this summer. We have a lot of different job opportunities, and going forward, we'll be discussing some of them. So what are we going to talk about over the next little period of time? Number one, why should you work for Vermont State Parks? We also want to tell you about what makes Vermont State Parks such a great place to work. What our season looks like. We are a seasonal employer, so that's something that people often wonder about. And talking about our offices, quote unquote offices, which are also the Vermont State Parks, which are huge. Because we have no walls, and then where you might fit in, what might be a good fit for you, and then of course talking about pay, and at the end we will also have questions as well. We are also going to be having other folks from different regions. I'm from Region 3, or the Northwest region, discussing what job opportunities they have available in their regions. So again, super psyched that you're here. So why work at Vermont State Parks? So the most important thing to think about is, first things first, that working in Vermont State Parks, we are absolutely 100% all over the place, which is a really great thing. Within the Vermont State Parks system, there are 55, fun fact, developed Vermont State Parks. And really, honestly, in all reality, no matter where you live in the state, there's probably a park a half hour away from where you live. And if you're really lucky, there might be multiple parks within a half hour of where you live. That being said, we are a seasonal employer. Fun fact number two, we're one of the only state park systems in the country that has a completely seasonal workforce, which is really neat. So we hire on about 100 people, give or take, each summer. And a lot of our staff that we have been working for us for years, which is really great and wonderful. I personally have been working for parks pretty much off and on since I graduated high school, and here I am now, and I'm happy to say I have the best job in the world. So this summer, definitely it might be your chance to work in Vermont State Parks, and I can guarantee that you'll be working with some of the friendliest people that you have ever met. Our visitors continuously tell us that our staff are undoubtedly some of the best staff around, and I agree with them. That said, our staff also say that the work that they're doing is some of the most meaningful and also rewarding work that they do. So if you have a good work ethic, customer service, management experience, if you've got a great attitude, we most definitely want you to apply. It's a great place to work. So you might be wondering, why should I work at State Parks? What makes us separate? Well, to give you an idea of what does make us different, I want to talk about what our work culture is like. We definitely have a strong work culture, which is really wonderful, and it's based off of our state parks mission statement, which is to conserve and to interpret on behalf of the people of Vermont, their cultural, natural, historic, scenic heritage, and all while doing so, we are trying to provide recreation opportunities and economic benefit as well. So that said, we do a lot, and it's important for me to also say that we really pride ourselves on working towards being a safe, welcoming, and inclusive place for all of our staff and all of our visitors. We also work really hard. We work in the sun and we work in the rain, and we work with thousands of different people coming in and out of the park throughout the day. So it's important that the people who we work with are happy with where they're working. So we also try to make our work days as fun as possible. So next up, when does this all happen? I mentioned we're a seasonal employer. So generally speaking, depending on what kind of park it is, we have either day use parks, which I'll talk about in a little bit, or camping parks. It's expected that most of our staff will be able to work on weekends and holidays, because if you've been to a state park before, chances are pretty good you probably went on a weekend or potentially a holiday. Those are usually our busiest times. So that being said, some of our positions start Memorial Day. We have a handful of them that start beforehand to help get the park ready for opening. And then we also have some that start in early June as well. And then as for when the season ends, that also kind of depends on the park. We have some parks that close Labor Day weekend, and then we have others that close after that, usually around Indigenous Peoples Day is when the remainder of the parks close. We do have some that stay open a little bit later. Our peak foliage parks do stay open early or later, and we do have some that open earlier. And those are the ones that generally are busier in the spring. Jamaica State Parks one, Grand Isles another that opens up earlier. So really kind of dependent on the park and the location as well. So another part, thinking about what the daily schedule is, that's really in a lot of ways, it's determined by the park and its function. So again, if it's a day use park or if it's a camping park. And our day use parks, for whatever it's worth, they are usually open from 10 a.m. until sunset. And camping parks are more or less kind of always open because we have campers there. So that means some of our positions could start at 7 a.m. Some of them might start at 9. And there's oftentimes kind of like an afternoon or evening shift that usually starts around noon and would help out closing the park down if it's a day use park, or helping with a rush of campers if it's a camping park. So a little bit of both. And the schedules we do, generally speaking, our managers try to work with all of our staff to make it work out for everybody. Sometimes you might not be able to get that 3 weeks off you want in the middle of the summer, but generally speaking, we try to work anything out with folks. So I did mention before that there are 2 different kinds of parks. And if you've stayed at a state park before, you maybe have stayed at one of our camping parks. There's also some that are both camping and day use. But our camping parks are generally where people would go to camp. Some of them stay at our tent sites. Some of them stay in lean-tos. And then others may opt out to stay in an RV. Generally speaking, a lot of our parks, the camping parks, have more than just campsites. So we might have hiking trails, there might be access to the water for swimming, there might be boat rentals, there could be a day use park down the road as well where people may go and visit. Really just depends on the landscape of Vermont. So if you spent time driving around Vermont, you know that there's all sorts of different landscapes. And we have all sorts of different landscapes inside of our parks. Some of our camping parks are really small. Mount Philo, which is a really well-known and beloved park, only has, I think it's like 8 tent sites, which is small and really manageable, but it's also a busy day use park. We get a lot of people that come in there to just recreate for the day. But then we have larger camping parks like Button Bay, Lake Carmi, Silver Lake. Those are huge parks that have, 100+ sites. So we definitely have busier parks, camping parks, where you could have a lot of people just coming in and going. And then next, day use parks, kind of mentioned them a little bit before, but day use is the word that we use that basically means where people go for the day. So they're not spending the night. Majority of these people, again, they are doing, what anybody would want to do when you go for the day. So they might be swimming, they might be hiking, boating, picnicking, or recreating in some other sort of way. Flying a kite, who knows? But that being said, because there is a variance in these two different types of parks, each of them has kind of their own unique skill set, and we definitely need different skill sets and personalities to complement the work that's done there. So then you might be wondering, what does it look like? What is it like? What are the jobs? What are the responsibilities? So an attendant position, that's our entry level position. And these positions, a lot of what park attendants do, our park managers do as well. And it's a wide variety of work. And if there's anything that I can describe as to what the work is, it's a lot of different hats. I think that's the best way to describe it. So out of the gate, first things first, something that is a reality for anybody who works in Vermont State Parks is cleaning bathrooms. Everybody, including the park manager, cleans them. And when we say to clean the bathrooms, it doesn't mean that we do it just, once a week like you might at home. We clean the bathrooms multiple times a day. And trust me, before you know it, you're going to be a pro, and it's going to be the easiest thing ever. And we maintain them to such a high level too that it's a pretty quick task that it's an easy pill to swallow, I should say. The other part is keeping our grounds clean. That's a huge thing of what we do. So if you've been into a state park, I'm sure you've probably noticed that our lawns look really good. We try not to have a lot of trash. We're constantly, upkeeping, and it's something that our visitors are very, very, very attuned to, how well that we upkeep our grounds. So there is a definite physicality to some of the work that we do, the groundskeeping part, but it is also a really big thing that we do. With that groundskeeping, that includes interior and exterior painting. We paint our lean-tos, we paint our buildings, signs. We kind of try to keep everything as fresh as humanly possible. And you don't have to be a professional painter. We can teach you how to do it. And same with our groundskeeping. You don't have to be a professional landscaper. It's a teachable skill. We use a lot of different equipment, ranging from push mowers to zero-turn mowers to tractors and weed whackers as well. A lot of people, I think, get really psyched and think that we use a lot of chainsaws. Unfortunately, our maintenance technicians are the only ones that use chainsaws, so there wouldn't really be any chainsaw work that would be happening too much, but definitely a lot of landscaping skills and gardening, lots and lots of gardening, so it's definitely pretty fun. In addition to groundskeeping, there's also a huge customer service aspect. We get a lot of folks coming in that have working for us that have customer service background, which we always love. And that's because we want people to feel welcome in Vermont State Parks. So hopefully if you visited a park before, you had a great interaction with one of our staff members at the booth or the office, what we call them is the contact station. And there we would have staff meet and greet visitors, collecting fees. And if you're at a camping park, you'd be checking in campers, which is pretty neat as well too. So again, a lot of our parks have very different landscapes. So depending on the park, you may also be doing boat rentals. You may be cleaning out cabins. We have those at some of our parks. We have bike rentals at some parks. There's a variety of different other things that are very unique to each park, just like all parks are super unique. And at the beginning of this, as I said, it's wearing lots of different hats, undoubtedly, and no day is ever the same. And of course, we're looking, generally speaking, for people. We have 40-hour week positions, and we do have some part-time positions available as well too. So that's our park attendant position. And I should note that those positions start at, well, actually, wait, I have a slide for that. I'll talk about pay in a minute. And then next up is park managers. We are hiring for park managers, which is great. And the park management position, I will tell you, you will learn a lot in a park management position. We have had a lot of our managers go off to do some really cool things after working for us. We've had folks go to Antarctica, work down there. We have a lot of people who are currently pursuing master's degrees. We've had people run bed and breakfast. We've had people do a wide gamut of things. We have one of my former staff members is actually in law school right now, which is really exciting. So our park managers have gone off to do some really great things, and you learn a lot in a park management position. The park manager positions are definitely, it's management. It is 100% management. So at the beginning of the season, all of our park managers and assistant managers go through an intensive 3-day training. And at that training, we cover all aspects of working in Vermont State Parks. This includes computers, how to onboard your staff, and it's also our initial onboarding. We also train about rules education. We do cover everything that you would need to know in order to be a park manager. As for the staff, the crew size, and this is the same for attendants as well, it really depends on the park. So some of the crews are just a handful of attendants, so a manager would only have a couple of attendants on their crew. Other parks are big parks, like I was mentioning before. Some of them have, over 100 sites, and there you could have upwards of 16 people on a site. So definitely a lot of positions. Again, kind of as I mentioned before, our park managers do a lot of what the park attendants do, but with additional responsibilities. So it would be scheduling is a huge part, overseeing the park's accounting, so making sure that that is good to go, working with customer service, so working out any unique reservations, or working with different groups that might be coming in, lots of customer service interfacing there as well. And then in our camping parks, we do have have our managers living in park in the event that if there's an after-hours emergency, they could be able to respond to that. Another part of the park manager position as well is our rules education, which is in camping parks, enforcing quiet hours. So lots of different hats for the park manager position, very similar to the attendant position in the scope of the work, but more general managerial things in regards to scheduling, accounting, and so forth. So we will teach if you have great management experience, or if you have some skill sets that you think could be great for you as a manager, but you might not be the best with landscaping equipment, or maybe you don't have a ton of experience, scheduling. We are definitely willing to train folks and get them up to speed on everything. So, yeah, the management positions, we have quite a few of them, or actually we have a few of them. We have quite a few attendant positions and a few park manager positions left at this point. So. Next up, you might be wondering about pay. Oh, sorry, I forgot, deckhands. We have deckhands that are positions that are open at between Kilcare State Park and Burton Island State Park for our Island Runner Ferry. These positions are to some degree similar to our attendant positions, but the deckhands are working to help safely transport visitors from Kilcare to Burton Island State Park. Again, every park is a little different. The Island Runner is a unique feature for us because Burton Island State Park is a park that you can only get to via boat. Hence, we have a ferry that transports our staff, or visitors and staff, back and forth between Kilcare State Park and Burton Island State Park. Again, this is another 40-hour-a-week position. Pretty fun position, helping out folks getting their gear across. And this is a great position too, because the scheduling for this is 10-hour shifts, and then, or 3 days on, 4 days off. So it's 12, and got a nice rotation of people kind of coming and going. So this is a great spot. I'm not sure where we have left for deckhand positions, but so that is an option. Park interpreter, we are also hiring for those. Park interpreter is kind of the position that you would picture the national parks person describing the flora and fauna. That's what our park interpreter positions are, where it's basically creating programs for our park visitors. We have a great number of park interpreters throughout the state, but they're not at every single park. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind for the park interpreter positions. And we do usually look for folks that have an education background, as they're able to kind of come up with efficient plans, like course plans per se, that they can share with campers. So some of the programs that our park interpreters have done have been maybe a guided hike, tree identification, working with kids. So it might be painting, what they see, understanding the natural landscape. Definitely a really fun job, but also pretty intensive that it's summer school to some degree as well. So we do have a couple of park interpreter positions available. And again, one thing to note is those aren't at every single park, just a handful. I think we've got 16 park interpreter positions. All right, and then next up, pay. Everybody wants to know about money. So the park attendant and deckhand positions start at $11.75 an hour. And our highest level park manager positions are at $18.33 an hour, but that's at a 48-hour-a-week pay grade. So it's basically we salary that position. Managers get an automatic 8 hours of overtime for those events that I talked about, that there might be an after-hours emergency. And then park interpreters start at $13.63 an hour at the larger parks. So that's the pay scale. But that being said, there are definitely some sweet perks to the job. Number one, you get to be outside. You get to work in one of the best places ever, which is such a huge perk. You also get free camping, and you get free day use entry to any Vermont State Park. And if you're driving into a park and you've got your friends with you, they can also get in for free, which is really great. Also get free fishing license. So if you want to go out after work and go fishing, you can do that because you got a free fishing license. And then depending on the park and the position, free housing could also be offered. And then we also have some sweet pro deals. Working in the outdoor industry definitely has its perks. So many companies, we have some lined up where you can get deals from those companies. And then, of course, we partner up with various different local attractions to offer our staff discounted admission rates or special deals. So we have that lined up with the Vermont Attractions Association. So you can go to Echo for free. Might be able to get a free creamy at a couple of places. We have some set up with the Shelburne Museum, so on. So there's definitely some nice perk benefits or fringe benefits, but the best one is most definitely that you're working outside in some of the most beautiful places in Vermont.